I've often said hearing God isn't difficult or complicated, and I wasn't joking or oversimplifying our faith. I didn't always believe that, though. For a long time, I thought hearing God was something distant, something reserved for certain believers who had it all figured out. I believed it had to be complicated, deep, or even difficult to access. And if I'm honest, that belief left me feeling frustrated, disconnected, and constantly questioning whether I was doing something wrong. Maybe you felt that way too. Walking with Jesus isn't supposed to be difficult, but rather simple and restful, all while walking through challenges and uncomfortable things in life. Understanding the Father's will should flow out of that. Hearing the voice of God has been what man has pursued and ignored since humanity began in the Garden of Eden. I spent years trying to get it right, trying to hear clearer, do better, be more spiritual. I thought if I prayed longer, focused harder, or became more disciplined, then maybe I'd finally hear God the way I was supposed to. But the more I tried, the more it felt like I was missing something. There was always this underlying pressure, like I had to earn clarity or unlock some higher level just to experience God. But everything began to change when I encountered the simplicity of the gospel in a way I had never understood it before. Not as information, not as something to strive toward, but as something to rest in. I began to realize that God was never distant. Whether I felt stuck or alone, it just wasn't true. Not in the kingdom of God. He was never withholding peace. He was never withholding his voice. He wasn't making it complicated. I was just used to looking for him in complicated ways. And slowly I started to notice something, that God was speaking in the quiet, in peace, in the everyday moments I used to overlook. It wasn't loud, it wasn't forced, it was simple, and it was consistent. That shift changed everything for me. I stopped striving, I started listening differently and more often, and I began to live from peace instead of pressure. And there are a few principles that became anchors for me in that journey, things I come back to again and again. The first one is this: God speaks through peace, not pressure. He leads and he guides, he doesn't drive you. For so long, I thought urgency, anxiety, and overthinking meant I was taking things seriously. But I started to recognize that God's voice carries a different tone. It's steady, calm, and grounded. Pressure pushes and peace leads. And learning to follow that peace changed the way I made decisions, the way I listened, and the way I trusted him. The second principle is this: peace is the potting soil for revelation. So when you find that peace, that simplicity is where clarity lives. See, I used to overanalyze everything, every thought, every feeling, every moment, but God wasn't asking me to complicate things. Most of the time, what he was saying was already clear. I just didn't trust it, or I didn't think it could be that simple. And when I stopped adding layers, I started hearing him more clearly. And the third principle is this: you don't have to strive for what you've already been given access to. I could come from the love of God into his presence better than coming for the love of God into his presence. And that was a big one for me. I was chasing something that was never distant. I was trying to reach a God who was already near, already speaking, already present in my everyday life. And when that truth settled in, everything shifted. This has become the focus of the We Are Ships community. Not a place of having it all together, but a real voyage, unlearning pressure, rediscovering truth, and learning to believe it so we can hear God in a way that is natural, grounded, and deeply personal. This community exists because I know what it feels like to want more clarity, to want to feel close to God, but not know how to get there without overcomplicating everything. We Are Ships is an international space for believers who are ready to return to something simpler, a space where you can slow down, let go of pressure, and learn to recognize God's voice in your real everyday life. Because hearing him isn't about striving, it's about believing that he is speaking and the one God sent to speak to you. It's about learning to follow peace, the Prince of Peace. And inside this community, I offer coaching for those who want to go deeper, deeper out into the waters of that love until we cross over to his perfect shores. Not because you're lacking, but because sometimes we need someone to walk with us as we unlearn the noise and reconnect with what's always been true. In these coaching spaces, we focus on helping you hear God with clarity in your daily life. Break free from confusion and overthinking, grow in confidence in your relationship with him, and build a life that responds in peace, not pressure. This isn't about becoming someone else. It's about coming back to who you already are in him, or who you need to discover he says you are. So if you've ever felt like hearing God is complicated, if you've ever felt stuck, unsure, or disconnected, I want you to hear this again. Hearing God is simple when you discover and then believe that he's been speaking to you all along.